It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That is Fate's Warning from Awaken the Guardian release. And the name of that tune there is called Valley of the Dolls. And a guy who's been kind of lost in the Valley of the Dolls for a long time is a former vocalist for Fate's Warning, John Arch. Welcome to the Classic Metal Show there, John.
Hey, glad to be here, man. Thanks.
Well, John, you know, when this whole Fate's Warning thing came up, that the Awaken the Guardian lineup was going to get together and do a couple of limited engagements and film a show. Basically, they had to drag you out of the mothballs. And when I see things like that, be it you or even like a Mike Howe from Metal Church, who really hasn't been, active, touring and whatnot, it amazes me that you guys can come right out of the gate and pick up right where you left off.
Well, I don't know. It's not like riding a bike, in my opinion. They dragged me out kicking and screaming, of course. But I didn't want to be, the only band member when they asked me if I wanted to get together and do, 30-year anniversary shows. So I knew it had to be. They did shows for all the anniversaries of all the albums. So this kind of was a no-brainer. I was kicking and screaming. But all said and done, I'm glad we did it. And, the studio work, of course, is studio work, but the live stuff is a totally different animal. So there was no doubt that there was little angst involved in this.
Sure, absolutely. Well, John, obviously, if anybody is a fan of yours as well as the band, they know that your full-time activity with the band basically came to an end 30 years ago, and you've done some other work here and there, and the thing is why did you leave the industry? Was it no longer a passion of yours, or did you just see the writing on the wall that it really wasn't going to be lucrative, or how did you view that?
You hit two of them right on the head. Yeah. I got a little taste of the industry, and there's a lot of roadblocks, and as far as the passion goes, I fell out of that a little bit. And then, basically, to tell you the truth, got to pay the bills. And, it was a choice of going full time. The road divided. It was either go full time with it or, take something a little bit more concrete, as far as bringing in an income and moving out of mommy's house and living independently. So that was part of it. But I always had, a desire to create. And I love the creative process of writing and studio work. As far as the touring stuff, that was a tough gig for me, and I kind of boxed myself into a corner. Writing the vocals is passionate and as high as I sang, and back then, you're a young guy full of testosterone, a lot of other good chemicals, and it seems to adrenaline, and it gets you through night after night of performing. So I guess there's a lot of reasons, and those are just some of them.
Sure, absolutely. Well, we get that. I mean, we understand the business of the music world as same as the radio world. The radio world certainly is not lucrative anymore. I mean, right. Everybody has some kind of a digital download, be it their I hate to even say this is past technology, but iPods, but everybody's got their music on their phones these days, or they're listening to Spotify, or they're listening to Pandora, or even one of my favorite mediums that came and went very quickly was satellite radio. Right. But there are a lot of mediums to get access to music, and it definitely hurts the bands. There's no question about it. A lot of the bands around here are pay to play, and that's unfortunate. And it's really expensive to tour. I think there was a time where not that it was lucrative. Always had to work hard, and we, whatever. There was a lot of dues to pay, but I think it's even gotten a little bit, worse. A lot of promoters it's so expensive, they just don't want to, it's more lucrative to tour Europe than it is here in the States, So, it's a
tough gig for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So when this opportunity came up to put the Awaken the Guardian lineup back together and do a couple of shows, I mean, obviously these big festival shows in Europe and the one down in Atlanta, how did you prepare for fronting this band? Was there a lot of rehearsal time, or did you just do a couple of passes and go, that's good enough? Or how did that all come together?
Yeah, that would be impossible. Just a couple of passes. No, we had plenty of, we had a lot of time, I would say, on the calendar. It's never enough time for me because I never feel like I'm prepared. But we had quite a bit of time to rehearse on our own. That's what we did first. Everybody was doing their homework, and they were, I was singing, Steve was drumming, and everybody was playing along with, with the Guardian album and then the encore songs, from Spectre and Night on Brocken. And then at some point, it was probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months before the show, that's when we got together, for the first time as a band, in 30 years. So it was weird at first. It was kind of like an episode of The Twilight Zone, going back down to the original place where we used to practice, walked in there, same pictures hanging on the wall, same fish tank, same everything. And it's like, this is really weird. But then after a while, once we got into it, things started to come back for us, to a certain point. It would never be the same as it was back in the day, when we were young and, things just, I don't know, they seemed easier back then. So, of course, being older, especially for me, being in my 20s when I wrote that stuff, early 20s when I wrote that, and it was hard back then, diving back into it 30 years later just seemed like, just a daunting task. So my eyes were wide open, and it was never a time where I actually relaxed or had a lot of confidence going into these shows.
Sure. Now, before you got together with the band to do rehearsals and whatnot, did you have to break the record out and sing along with it?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Before we got together, yeah. Oh, yeah. There was like, probably 8 or 9 months where I would go down every single night and, just spin and sing along with it and get my range back. I had good nights where, okay, it sounds like it's we're not going to have an issue here. And then there would be nights that, like, oh my God, that I would have bad nights and good nights. So the mix of them both. So, but yeah, I sang and tried to get, I pretty much got my, the pitch and, being able to sing the high stuff. But, singing in your studio or in your basement or whatever, it's still, I had forgotten after all these years singing, in a rehearsal versus singing live. And I don't think it really hits you until you're actually up on stage and, the nerves hit you and you sing so much harder than you ever would in rehearsal just because of all the adrenaline. And you're putting so much more mustard on it that, you are running out of gas, before the show is over. Luckily that didn't happen, but, that's the only way. I guess my point is, it's just so different rehearsing versus, stepping on stage. And, back in the day when you tour a lot, or bands that do tour a lot, they get used to it. Their nerves are calm, and they're conditioned to do the live stuff. So, yeah, it was an eye opener for sure. But I think in the end, everything went well and the fans were happy.
Sure. So in all reality, you prepared almost the better part of a year for this thing.
Absolutely, and it still wasn't enough time.
Very nice.
Well, like I said, the voice is like just an unpredictable thing. I'd have a good night, and then the next night I'd be crazy. So it's kind of the luck of the draw. It's like, okay, well, let's just see what happens. You just kind of got to let it go and just do your best.
Sure. Well, at what point was there a point of no return where you committed to this and you said, okay, yeah, I'll be a part of this reunion? But, obviously we just discussed how you had to get your voice back in shape and get ready for this thing. At what point was it a point of no return to where you were full on committed as to where you couldn't back out now and you go, you know what, guys, I'm just not up to par. I don't think I can do this. At what point do you have that choice of either bailing or have to do it?
It's one word. It's yes or no. And when I got the call, actually I got the call from Jim, the guitar player and writer, and he had already talked to everybody else because he knew I was going to be like the pivotal point, whether it was going to happen or not. Because my nerves are just like afraid when it comes to live performances. So he talked to everybody else, and then he called me, and he brought up the idea. Look, we've done the anniversary, shows for all the anniversaries of the albums, and we're talking about it. I talked to the other guys, and they're all in. And how about you? It's like, what are you going to do? I'm not going to let all the guys down, man. They all wanted to do it, and I just didn't want to be a stick in the mud and be the only guy to say no. So, and you know what? I mean, I think somewhere deep down, I really wanted to do it anyway. So,
right. Sure.
It was yes, and then they rushed the contracts out like in a day, like overnight.
Right.
Just to make sure there was no time for me to change my mind. So.
Right. Well, was there any unfinished business or any hard feelings, or was there any trepidation among the other guys and yourself, or was everything a pretty clean slate getting all together?
No, everything was good because we've all seen each other throughout the years at shows, and I've worked with Jim, on Twist of Fate and Sympathetic Resonance. We've done some recording. So, when I first left the band, there was a little bad blood, but you know what? I didn't want it to be like that. So, everybody was talking. I know it's kind of uncharacteristic of bands that break up. Usually, there's a animosity and nobody talking, but we were able to remain friends, and everybody was into it. And Frank flew in from California, and it was a go. And actually, when we started, the rehearsals, we were nerved up, but it was kind of like it's like an old hat. We all got together and we're joking around like we used to. It kind of probably felt like we were back in the day, and it was pretty cool.
Sure. Well, when you walked off the stage after the Keep It True festival performance, what was your initial thought or feeling when you walked off stage? Was it, whew, I'm glad that's over, or wow, that came out a lot better than I thought?
It was probably A. Yeah. No, when I walked off stage, it's you don't have time to think about, oh shit, this was flat or this was sharp, or, my vibrato was kind of like non-existent because I was pushing so hard, or like in Prague Power, kind of a funny thing. It wasn't funny at the time, but we had a perfect monitor mix before we hit the stage at Prague Power. And as soon as I put my in-ears in and we hit the stage, we hit the first note, and I don't know what happened to our mix, but it was absolutely horrible. All I had was I had Frank's guitar full blast in both my ears, and I couldn't hear myself. I couldn't hear the drums. I couldn't hear anything. So truthfully, I don't know how I made it through the first song, but then we hit Valley of the Dolls, and I looked over because I wanted to give the monitor guy some signals, like, the middle finger, basically, like, what's going on? And he's got both feet up on the board and his mouth open with his head back, and he's sound asleep.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, a real professional. So if I had something close by to throw at him and hit him, I would have. And I was going to throw my mic, but I just bought that, so I didn't want to throw that. So Valley started, and I got through the first verse. I don't know how. And then the second verse started, and I just totally lost it. And I missed the whole first half of the first verse because I just was dumbfounded. I pulled my in-ears out, and somehow I got back on track to finish the verse. And then the rest of the night, luckily the guitar tech went to the board and gave us a half a shitty mix, So I guess my point being is, you walk off stage, and I didn't even dwell on it at that time. It's just, I think that, you're just glad to make it through. And after seeing all the fans, and they really enjoyed themselves, and they were like off the wall, they're really the ones that push you through. So yeah, I think relief was number one. And I was just really happy, and I was like on an adrenaline high. Just like I was wide awake and ready to party all night.
Sure. Well, you did 2 shows that were filmed for DVD, which is, one of the reasons we're speaking to you today is that there is going to be a DVD out later this month that, of the 2 shows. And, when it was all said and done, did you have the urge to say, I'd kind of like to do a little more of this, or did you go, well, you know what, 30 years has passed, we did it, it's over, it's done, we celebrated it, I'm ready to go back to my wood shop?
Probably a little bit of both. I think, like I mentioned before, the performance stuff, it's cool, and you just can't get that anywhere else, that feeling with the audience in front of you. But on the other hand, it's a lot of work. It's really expensive. It's hard to get everybody together. Just preparing for that show, it was over a year worth of, trying to get my voice semi back in shape again. So I don't know how, if that will come. But as far as the writing and doing another album, I'm totally into that. And that's what I'm focusing on right now. Did I answer your question?
Well, the question is do you have, the desire to, do something musically and, get into it more than you have in, say, recent past?
Okay. Yeah. So I guess that part B would be I definitely want to put out some more vinyl, so to speak. And I'm working on that right now. But as far as the live performances, I can't say no, because you just never know from day to day what's going to happen. I said yes to that, and another opportunity may present itself. So I just have to get over the nerve part of it, and anything is possible as far as that is concerned. So you just never know.
Sure.
But writing and recording, I'm definitely into that.
Absolutely. Well, being that you have not been an active part of Fates Warning in such a long time, over the decades, have you checked out the releases of Fates Warning?
Yeah, I definitely stayed up. Like I said, we're all friends, and of course, I want to hear what they sound like. And they took a little bit of a different turn, and it's not for better or worse. I like both. What do you want to say? The first incarnation of Fates Warning, and also the current lineup, and it's all great. And sure. their latest release is really good.
Sure. Now, is prog metal your passion, or is that just something that just kind of came along, at the time, or do you have a preferred style of music that really, is your favorite?
Yeah, I guess I just can't shake this thing as far as the metal is concerned. Growing up, I was always into like everything. Grand Funk and Elton John and Uriah Heep, and I can go on and on. Boston, so many bands. I don't know. I just can't. I don't know if I can hear myself or see myself doing anything else. It just seems like once we get into the writing process and recording, it's just like it's like one of those self-driving cars. It just steers itself in that direction. It's not that I'm not up into, to trying something different. Like my next effort, I don't know. Maybe I'll try something a little bit different. A lot of our songs are, complex. There's a lot of time signature changes in it. And, I might do a few things that are a little bit more simplistic. Something that I'm not singing in the stratosphere. I'd like to actually, what I've been working on is the range of my voice, and not higher, but actually mid to lows, mixing in, having more of a mix, more of a variation in my voice. So I don't know if you call it a progression or I wouldn't say it's a regression. I would like it to be different, but I would also like it to be good.
Sure, absolutely. Now, are there any bands, outside of your era that you look to and go, wow, those guys are doing something pretty cool? Anybody that comes to mind right off the top of your head?
I say that's like one of the worst questions for me. I'm kind of like Jim in the respect that I don't listen to a lot of stuff as far as news stuff. If I come across something, somebody posts something on Facebook and I listen to it, and it's like, yeah, that's really cool. But mostly I dig up old stuff. Like I was just listening to, Dead Soul Tribe before our call, the January Tree. And it's like, it sounds a little bit like Tool, but then it's unique. And I love stuff like that. It's a great band, although they don't, they're not together anymore. So yeah, I seem to regress. I go back listening to a lot of the old stuff.
Sure. Well, it's kind of a comfort level too, in a lot of ways.
It is, and then especially during writing, I tend to not want to get influenced by stuff that's out, because whether we realize it or like it or not, we are influenced by everything we see and everything we hear, and it's funny how sometimes it surfaces, and so I try to keep away from listening to stuff while I'm writing.
Sure, absolutely. Now, I mentioned that Metal Blade will be putting out a DVD of the performances last year with Fate's Warning, doing the Awaken the Guardian, and the have you seen any of the footage, and do you have any input on the creative direction of how it's being edited or anything, or do you care? Or
yeah, I definitely care about the audio. Well, yeah. Well, of course, they did release that, Fata Morgana video, and I saw the footage, but then, of course, we had the audio separately, so everything had to be, mixed, and everything had to be lined up, and of course, like any performance, there was some serious lead balloons with my vocals here and there, so we had to fix those, and like I told you before about Valley of the Dolls missing a half a verse, that's something we had to go back into Jim's studio, and it's like we had to fix it, because we just didn't want to take the song off the off the album.
Sure.
So it was so after the video, after filming it, of course, like everybody does, they go into the studio, but we left probably 65-70% of it alone, because we wanted that live sound, and I felt that we can get away with that, whatever. My vocals are flat there, but it's live. We had to keep reminding ourselves that it's not perfection, and we're not making a studio album. And Jim had to talk me down a couple times. So in that respect, it definitely sounds good, but I did have to make some fixes. Like some people go in the studio and they redo the whole thing, and you can see their lip syncing is off, and it sounds too good to be true. So these DVDs, they're going to sound natural, and they're going to sound, they're going to sound live.
Good, excellent.
Yeah.
So overall, the whole overall experience, I know it's been almost a year already, but looking back now, give me your true assessment of the whole experience.
Okay, well, the whole idea of doing this in the first place was a scary thing, and then when they told me after I committed that they were going to film it live for a DVD, that really upped the ante quite a bit. But like I said, it's one word. I said yes, and so we had to go through with it. And in the end, I'm really glad that we did what we did, because although I had reservations, it's really about the fans, and it's really what the fans wanted. And when I was with the band a long time ago, unfortunately, we did U.S. shows, but I wasn't able to go to Europe. So there was so many people in Europe and in the States here that never got to see that generation of Fates play live. So this is, that was our opportunity to do what we did. And all said and done, I'm glad we did it for the fans. And actually, there is some satisfaction in my soul that I did something, constructive in music, because I always had the ambition to do something like that. It was just a question of timing and when. So that's pretty much my assessment. I'm glad we did it, and I hope that everyone who listens to it realizes that we're 30 years older, and we're not in our early 20s anymore, but we gave it our best shot, and we pushed in as hard as we could. And in the end, I just hope everybody's happy with it.
Sure. Well, were you happy or surprised with the reception that you received, especially over in Europe, because that is such a hardcore market for the metal bands and the festivals over there? So looking back, did you go, "Wow, I didn't realize that this music touched so many fans"?
Yeah, when we were making the album, we were just a bunch of guys doing what we were doing. And then as time went on, and then, of course, we broke into the social media, which connected everybody. Then it started of course, we were seeing what people were posting, and they were able to contact us. And, we had a better gauge on, I guess the impact that music in general makes on people. In Europe, I mean, they're rabid. They signed a petition to get us to go over there years ago. They just passed around a petition to get us to play there. And so it's like a cult. And when we did Keep It True, it was almost like, I don't know, like the Twilight Zone. They are still back in the 80s. They dress that way. It's their religion. And they are true diehards. And they're very forgiving. I mean, you could go up on stage and you can really fuck up, and they don't care.
Yeah,
they're there, which is a big relief for me. It takes a little bit of the pressure off because they're into it. They're singing every word. Their fists are in the air, and the energy that they put out. Not just, I shouldn't say just Europe. I mean, in the U.S. too. The energy that they put off. The band actually feeds off of that. I think that's the high. The reason why everybody wants to be on stage, because it is a high, having all that energy just blasting at you, and really that's the only thing that got me through those two performances is the fans. They're crazy good, So I guess I'm not surprised because I knew how much they wanted us to come over, and I did go over in 2012. We did a couple shows, one in Connecticut and one in Germany at the same venue for sympathetic residents, and we did some Guardian stuff too. And they were nuts, and it was great. It's like, maybe I should do more of this.
Excellent. All right, well, good for you, John. I'm glad that worked out for you. If you are a fan of Fate's Warning, the new live DVD of Awaken the Guardian is going to be out on Metal Blade Records, available April 28th. So go out there and pick that thing up. So
thank you very much, man. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So John, any additional words for the fans?
Well, what can I say? I just through the years, just unrelenting fans, and I can't thank them enough. I try to thank them, but there's just not enough words. Although I haven't done a lot of shows, the response to all the recordings and when I talk to people, it's just a gift that keeps on giving, and I appreciate it more than they know. So thank you, everybody, and I hope to bring some more music your way, and I hope you listen and you like it.
Excellent. All right, John, well, we appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk to us here on the Classic Metal Show. We always let the artists pick a song from one of their songs in their catalog to close out the interview. So maybe you could pick out another song from the CD, Awaken the Guardian, and tell us a little story about it.
Okay, let me see. What would I like to pick from the CD? I don't know. Maybe Exodus. It's a long one. Do you want to play a long song?
Sure. So what's the story behind that?
Exodus is it's almost like the ending to Awaken the Guardian when you look at the album cover and you see the arches, and it's a song about a transcendence and making transformation from one life or one entity into another. You'll see a lot of symbolism on the album where you have vultures and creatures and a desert. And to me, that kind of was a symbol of the planet we live on sometimes. And the message is to transcend our problems and things, our daily problems and things that are afflictions and things that affect us, and try to transcend them and find another place in your mind, cross through those arches, and find the beauty.
Excellent. All right, well, the name of the CD is called Awaken the Guardian. You can get the live DVD and disc later on this month. So here it is. This is Fate's Warning with Exodus, exclusively here on your Classic Metal Show.